And radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. It's 4 o'clock. Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. And just like that, Superman is putting the cape on. Too much? And also, it's U.S. Open week, people. And also, Colter wants to talk the NFL. I am in heaven. Good afternoon. How are you? Hope you are well. It is Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio and across the state on SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Great to be with you. Thanks for spending some time with us wherever you are. You can also catch us on YouTube. How about that? YouTube channel, Tutel and Nuanez. Pretty easy to find. We want to make it intuitive for you. That's what we want to do around here. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web, 1029ESPN.com. There you can listen to the stream. The stream is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can listen to this show live no matter where you are on that stream. It is there thanks to Opportunity Bank. Your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to pick up your phone and call us, 329-1899. That is the phone number, 406-329-1899. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. You call us anytime. We will be happy to have you on here. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. Game 5 of the NBA Finals. The Toronto Raptors, in the history of the franchise, are 8-0 in Game 5s at home. So it's all over, right? It's all over. Talk about that. And yes, people, it is looking like, now he's been cleared, doesn't mean he's going to play, but Kevin Durant, my guess, is going to be out there for Game 5 for the Golden State Warriors. So we'll see how that goes. We will talk about that. We will talk about, Colter brought up a very interesting point as we were discussing today about the changing narrative that Kawhi Leonard may be instantiating in the NBA in general when it comes to free agents and rental players and all of that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that. We will get into some U.S. Open stuff. We will get into some NFL stuff. Want to talk about specifically the Seahawks and the Denver Broncos, some regional teams around here coming out of the draft, who they got. And Colter has some burning questions for the NFL as we are here in the offseason. And we will also perhaps get into some prep stuff as well. So tons to do on the show today. Looking forward to it. Colter, how you doing there? You feeling good? You got a new headset here? You trying to figure this thing out? They go on your ears. That's how it works. There it is.
I don't know why there's right and left.
Because you got a right and a left ear. Orients it differently, can shoot the sound into different parts of the drum. It'll sound hollow if you wear it backwards. Perhaps it's just the string.
Symbolic of the show.
Perhaps this is just oriented for right-handed people. You know? Then it's out of your way if you're trying to write. I don't know. I'm making this stuff up. Tommy, did you jog the camera? Do I need to do anything technical over here before we get off and running? Now that we're off and running? Okay. I'll take that as a no. Colter, moving on. Let's talk about the NBA Finals tonight. Yep. I'm on the edge of my seat for this basketball game. I'm very, very intrigued. I am stunned, I must say. I am stunned that the Toronto Raptors did what they did to Golden State in Oakland, even without Klay Thompson in the first game and certainly with Klay Thompson in the second game, to go down there, take them both out of the Bay, and go back with a chance to win it tonight in 5. Never, ever would I have, heading into this series, put this as a possibility, as an expectation. But they have done it, and I give them all the credit in the world for doing it. And I'm in this situation where I didn't think it would matter that Klay Thompson was out and that Golden State would win, and they didn't. And then I was like, well, it will definitely matter that Klay Thompson comes back and the Warriors will win, and they didn't, and he didn't. His return did not matter ultimately. Now I sit here and go, well, Kevin Durant, he's been the missing piece to all of this whole time. When Kevin Durant comes back, maybe he will be the difference. But up to everything, single thing that I've said no to Toronto, they have answered with an emphatic yes. And I have a coin flip on this tonight in terms of how this game is going to go. I got no idea what is going to happen tonight, and I can't wait. I am so excited just to see how this transpires, because for all this time that I think that I've had a feel, which clearly I have not, I have no feel tonight.
Great article yesterday morning in The Athletic, the centerpiece being David West. And the opening scene is David West leaving Oracle Arena early from the last game, knowing that the game was over. And he had some quotes just talking about how hard it was to watch what's going on right now. But it was sort of affirmation for what both you and I have been saying for the last week or so, and that is that it's hard to say, well, it's impossible to say that the absence of the Warriors superstars has not had an impact on the series. It certainly has. There's no doubt about it. But I don't think that it's separate to me in the analysis of this series of how well the Raptors have played.
Agree with you completely.
And like David West said, make no mistake, the narrative of Kevin Durant not playing yet in this series is overwhelming the entire series, just like the narrative of Kevin Durant has overwhelmed the entire greatness of the Warriors for 2+ years. I mean, it's analysis of the Warriors has started with Kevin Durant from the moment he went to Golden State. Period. Everything after that has been secondary, fair or not. And I think a lot of that's unfair. I think it demeans the greatness of the Warriors to a certain extent. But like David West said, make no mistake, Toronto is loaded and they're tough. And I think that has been overshadowed a little bit by the absence of these two guys. I'm so interested to see if Kevin Durant plays, even if he is cleared, if he does play, how healthy he is, and what sort of difference he can make. Because if you watch this from a X's and O's standpoint, everything that Toronto has done in this series defensively has been to slow down all the Warriors off-the-ball motion stuff, all their off-the-ball screens. The one game where the Warriors diced the Raptors was the game that Boogie Cousins played out of the high post and passed like he's never passed before in his career. That's the position that Kevin Durant's going to play. And the reason that Kevin Durant is such a huge X factor in this series is because the defense that Toronto's been playing goes out the window when Kevin Durant's in the game, because you can just throw the ball to Kevin Durant in the high post. And unless you double him, which you never would, because when you double him, then all of a sudden you got two of the greatest shooters in NBA history, one of those two potentially running off a backside screen and having a wide open three, and that's not what you want. And so I just think that the return of KD and his presence in the high post could completely flip Toronto's game plan on its head. That said, I think that Toronto deserves a ton of credit for putting themselves in the position that they're in right now. And here's my thought. If Toronto doesn't win the series tonight, they're not going to win the series.
I think it is such an odd thing to sit here and look at 3-1 and not be, well, the series is over. It was fun while it lasted, but the series is over. Whether it's tonight or in Game 6, or shocking if it made it that far in Game 7 that the series is over. But as I said on Friday, even in the event that Toronto did win the game on Saturday, which they did win, or on Friday night that they did win, I would not count out Golden State down 3-1. I just won't do it, and I'm not going to do it here and now. I do want to talk about Kevin Durant. He is the storyline of this game and of the remainder of this series, however long it lasts, whether it's 48 minutes or whether it's 3 more games. First of all, in terms of the play, what he adds to this team, we said this before, because there was all this scuttle, all this talk coming into the series that is Golden State. And again, I don't think a lot of people ultimately got on board with better without Durant, but they were certainly in the more fluid, certainly more aesthetically pleasing, and sort of back to the Golden State of old that I think a lot of basketball people kind of fell in love with the way they played. But then when they hit the Toronto wall, literally, the defensive wall that they've been implementing, I think a lot of people went, well, whoa, Kevin Durant would be a serious answer to this defensive problem that has been put together by Nick Nurse and that group. The issue is he's been out, is it 9 or 10 games? And calf strain, I have no idea what that means. What is he going to be physically capable of doing? I don't know. But if he is physically capable of playing at a very high level, I think he will play at a high level, and that, I think, is a scale tipper. I think. But, of course, every other time I've thought against Toronto, they have proven me wrong. And so, again, I just come with so much respect now for Toronto that I have. But as far as Kevin Durant goes, in the saga, in the arc of his career, and the legacy that he is building day by day and year by year, all of the backlash that came with him going to Golden State and people angry, upset for him joining an already championship team and the rich getting richer and all of that. And I don't know how many people are really out there like that, given the fact that the man now has 2 NBA Finals MVP awards, but viewing somehow his championships as illegitimate or as would have happened regardless, so that it's not, you're not the one out there doing it, you're not a championship, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever lack of respect of giving it up to KD in that regard that people have had and continue to have, if he is clearly the thing that does change the balance in the series, and he comes back in a team that's down 3-1 and has had no answer for Toronto and their defense and their composure and the way they've gone about it, and he's the guy who all of a sudden goes, hop up on these shoulders one more time and takes this for Golden State. Again, I think that the people that are going to hate, that's just not going to change their minds in terms of likability, but I think you got to shut up at that point about saying that Kevin Durant isn't all the things that he is, including championship KD, because he is the one who will have done this for this team, not joining a team that was going to roll through it anyway. And I think Golden State has been exposed for the first time ever that I've seen, ever, in terms of this iteration in this series. And it has been shocking to me to see and impressive to me to see. And Kevin Durant has an opportunity now to completely change, or at least completely mute all of that stuff. Now, people are not going to change their minds about how they feel about him as a person, the things he says. Maybe he doesn't get along. Is he a prima donna? All that stuff. That's all separate. But in terms of on the floor, this is a legacy-changing moment potentially for Kevin Durant.
One of the things that I found most fascinating is that one thing that I think was really underrated about the Warriors pre-Kevin Durant, the Warriors team that won 73 games, that then Kevin Durant joined, and that's where all the backlash comes from. He joined the greatest team in NBA history.
That's right.
But I think one of the underrated parts about that team is the guys that were on the team beyond Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Steph Curry. People forget that they were an incredibly deep team with guys like Maurice Spates and Andrew Bogut and Anderson Varejao and Ian Clark and Leandro Barbosa, and I mean they had so many and they still had Sean Livingston, they still had Andre Iguodala. Those two guys are still key bench players. What we've seen is it's been overshadowed when you add KD to the mix, and then you have the emergence of Kevon Looney, and you still have Sean Livingston and Andre Iguodala. That's a really good 7 right there. And Jordan Bell fits into probably the top 8. And he's gotten some starts here in the finals, even though he's not playing starter minutes.
Yeah.
But regardless, the Warriors fall off big time when you take anybody out of that top 7 or 8. And that's something that they have never experienced before, but they've also never had to deal with it because none of these guys have ever been hurt during this time of year. They've dealt with it during the regular season, but it hasn't really mattered. And, I just led with David West. He was a huge member of those early teams as well. But their depth beyond the top 7 has been exposed in this finals. And I think that's where Toronto has been able to make up so much. Because Toronto, I think that Golden State has, when healthy, probably has two of the three best players in this series. Kawhi Leonard fits somewhere in the mix. But then Draymond Green and Klay Thompson are better than anybody else on the Raptors.
No question.
But then the Raptors have like number 5 through 10 as you go on down the line. And I think that's where you've got this give and take that's gone back and forth. I think the Warriors' depth has gotten exposed a little bit. I'm so interested to see if Kevin Durant actually plays and how much impact he can have. I think that if he has any chance to play, he will play. But to your point, it is really fascinating the way that this completely alters a narrative that's been building since Kevin Durant signed with the Warriors. And now it does. It completely alters it because it has seemed like Kevin Durant has gotten the Finals MVP as sort of an afterthought the last couple of years rather than earning it like so many guys have before him. And now if he comes back and say he comes back and just scores 30 a game for the next 3 games and they come back and win this, he'll be the Finals MVP again. But it'll be a completely different one, a much more vindicated.
It will be. How odd to talk about a guy who is consecutive Finals MVPs being vindicated in getting a third.
It's so funny because coming into the series, after he got that injury, coming into the series, we talked, okay, if the Warriors win this thing without him, it will have an impact on what happens this offseason because not only will it reinforce the narrative of they don't need him to the world at large, it will reinforce the narrative to them that they don't need him. We also talked about, okay, what if he does come back in this series? He could be the savior. The one scenario that we never put into context or that we never analyzed was, what if the Warriors lose this series? What if the Warriors lose this series with him and without him? Well, how does that play into the narrative of this entire season?
You know, if they lose tonight with Kevin Durant, and by the way, 3:45, so not even 30 minutes ago, or just 30 minutes ago, Adrian Wojnarowski reporting, sources saying that Kevin Durant plans to play. So, you know, being cleared to play is the first step, which he was earlier today, and then actually deciding that you're going to play is another part of it. So, you know, this is I would be aghast if Kevin Durant did not make an appearance out there and, in fact, wasn't in the starting lineup. I fully anticipate that he's going to be there at the tip in 2.5 hours from now on ESPN Radio. But I am if they were to lose the game tonight, that being the Golden State Warriors, and this series come to a close, I also think that would be vindicating for Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant, even if he plays tonight, if they lose this game, you're going to say, well, I mean, my goodness, this guy had a calf Achilles injury. He was out for, several weeks and then, stepped on the floor and wasn't himself or couldn't, pull it off or whatever it was. Now, if he goes for 40 and they still lose, then that's maybe a different deal there. But the point is, it's just one game. And the fact that they were in this position, the Warriors, they're in this position, people will say, and I think they'll be to an extent right, because he was not there. So if they win it, he is the savior, and if they lose it, he's the reason. His absence is the reason that they lost it. And in either case, Kevin Durant comes out looking like, the best player and the guy that this team needed to win this year. And that, to me, is also a very interesting turn. I want to know from you.
I just don't know if I completely agree with that because I think that demeans the value of Klay Thompson.
I'm not saying it's true.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. I agree with the narrative, the broad narrative that you're spinning. Certainly,
but I think
that will be what
people will say.
That's what people will say, no doubt.
Mm-hmm. And the reason that I say the part that I hate about that is that it's not about the Toronto Raptors. If the Raptors win, this is about the Toronto Raptors, people. It's not about Kevin Durant being there or not.
I hate that it's not about the Raptors, and I also hate that it overwhelms what I've been talking about all year, which is just the inevitable human nature of the disease of more. If no matter what happens in this series, we recorded our ESPN Roundtable this week earlier today with Jeff Choate. There's a tease for you guys. Montana State head football coach Jeff Choate will be coming on, so you can hear that Wednesday at noon or Thursday at 5 p.m. right here and right here. One thing Choate said, though, he said that the hardest thing in sports is for a team to continually improve. No matter where you start, no matter where you finish, each year to get better. How do you continue to get better? And, I mean, that's the brilliance of Alabama football, right? They've continued to get better somehow, some way. So, I mean, how have they done it? It's incredible. Never let complacency sneak in. Set the standard as high as it can be set and still surpass that standard every year. It's one of the – I mean, North Dakota State is another great example. How do they continue to raise the bar? Well, how does the Golden State Warriors continue to raise the bar? And you know, we've had an ongoing argument over how much does team chemistry matter? How much does if you get along? And I guess I've probably misexpressed myself a little bit in terms of maybe overemphasizing the personal relationship side of this thing. But I think it really is. I mean, it just comes back to the Pat Riley book, The Disease of More, when he talked about the 1987 Lakers season and then what happened in 88 and 89. Did the Lakers get any worse? They still had Magic Johnson and James Worthy and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Michael Cooper and on down the line. All-star, 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 all-star. And were the Detroit Pistons actually any better than them? I'm not sure. But the Detroit Pistons had the hunger, they had the toughness, and they had the newness of it all. It's just it's human nature as everybody as an organization. If you become more successful, everybody wants to have a bigger piece of the pie because you think you deserve it. And a lot of times, most of the time, you do. And I think that's the situation that the Warriors have been in for quite some time, honestly. And to ease the disease of more, they had to go get more, and they went and got him in Kevin Durant. But I just don't like the fact that regardless, now with these injuries, those two, Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant being out, it completely alters everything. Just like you're saying, it demeans the accomplishments of the Raptors if and when they win the series. But it also overshadows just the overarching example of that premise, how hard it is to always get better.
Let me ask you a couple quick questions about the two most prominent guys, at least in storyline for each of these teams. It's undeniable for Toronto that it's Kawhi Leonard. If Toronto wins and if Toronto loses, Kawhi Leonard is a Toronto Raptor next season, yes or no, in both scenarios. If they win, if the Raptors win the title, any time in the next three games, is Kawhi Leonard coming back to Toronto next year?
Such a hard question, man.
Let me ask you the easier question. If they lose, is he coming?
No.
And you think that much even still is sure?
Yes.
Okay.
In my heart of hearts, I think Kawhi Leonard's gone.
Even if they win?
Even if they win.
Okay. Kevin Durant?
I think he's gone.
No matter what?
No matter what.
Okay. Is he a free? He is a free agent.
He's a free agent
this year.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. My tendency is to think that this is the part. I guess I don't know if I used to hate this. I have now sort of resided myself to this, and I understand it, and I don't even resent the guys for this. But the winning, we as fans, as onlookers, as viewers of this stuff, even guys that cover this, I think winning matters more than it does to the guys that are playing.
I think that's part of it. I also think that these guys think that they are the key to winning. If you are Kevin Durant, in your mind, you went and joined the team that lost the NBA Finals, not the team that won 73 games. Mm-hmm. You are winning the last three championships because of you. That's what he thinks in his head.
And it might not.
And I truly think that Kawhi Leonard thinks. I mean, if Kawhi Leonard goes to Toronto and wins the championship, why wasn't Kawhi Leonard think he can go anywhere and win a championship?
Sure, and that's why. And when I say care about winning, I don't mean the desire to win. I don't mean care about championships. What I mean is leaving a place where you've had a championship looks like leaving winning. Because you want to be in a town that you like more, because you want to be with guys that you know better, or whatever the reasons are. And so it appears that the winning, the championship that you've already done, is a secondary or tertiary consideration for the things about yourself, whether it's the finances, whether it's the place, whether it's whatever it is. And I just don't begrudge guys for that. And you make a very good point. If you're Kevin Durant or if you're Kawhi Leonard, you go, Toronto didn't win. I won. And guess where I'm going next? We will win.
And this is exactly why LeBron James is a Los Angeles Laker, because it also comes down to where can you win. Because you can be LeBron James. You can go to 8 straight finals, including several in a row with the Cleveland Cavaliers. But to actually get over the top with the talent that you need to get over the top, it's just so much harder to do it in Cleveland because you're just not going to get anybody to come there.
Let me ask you this. Kevin Durant leaves Golden State.
Yep.
You will be hard-pressed to find me. In fact, I defy you. You can't do it. Superstars of the level of talent that you have with Clay and with Steph and even with Draymond, who have proven, who have shown that they will bring somebody in who's another superstar, another huge talent, and that they will be able to all play together. And even if Durant leaves, you talk about, well, guys, people don't want to play with LeBron James. Who doesn't want to play in Golden State in a brand new $2 billion barn in the middle of San Francisco with those guys?
Totally. And there's
right?
Absolutely. And also, just from a pure basketball standpoint, Kevin Durant is way down the list as far as a good fit for what the rest of those guys do well. Yeah. Look at how much Draymond Green's role is demeaned when Kevin Durant is in the game.
True.
Like, say the Warriors,
Steph and Clay leave, or Clay and KD leave, and Steph goes for 47.
Right. But look, I mean, imagine if Anthony Davis went to Golden State. How much better of a fit for the rest of the team that would be. Joel Embiid, a better fit. I mean, the only guys that would be worse fits than Kevin Durant that are, quote unquote superstars are Russell Westbrook and Kyrie Irving. Besides that, pretty much everybody would be a better fit than KD just because of the way you have to play. And the Warriors have altered the way they play for KD, and that's a credit to them. And also Kevin Durant, I hate on Kevin Durant a lot, but Kevin Durant has altered the way he plays as well. I mean, he has – I always talk about the ISO, give it to the high post. That's a lot on the half court, but he actually has changed the way he plays, and he does fit into the scope of their offense quite often, especially in their secondary fast break stuff, especially on defense. I mean, Kevin Durant, that's one of the most underrated parts of the Golden State Kevin Durant saga is the fact that Kevin Durant went from a lackadaisical, nondescript defender to a really good defensive player.
The other issue, which is the bigger issue in all this for Golden State, is who's writing the checks. Because you can get whoever you want to come play there, but if you can't pay them, which you can't, then you got to make some choices.
Yeah, Golden State got lucky in that element for 2 reasons. One, they signed Steph Curry to his long-term deal before this new influx of TV money hit. So even though they're paying Steph Curry an exorbitant amount of money, they still probably save $50 million if what they would have had to pay him the next 2 years. Especially because he was first-team All-NBA the last 2 years, so he's guaranteed for that super max. The other way they got lucky is that Draymond Green and Klay Thompson weren't All-NBA this year. That saves them another 40 to 50 on each of those contracts. Mm-hmm. So again, you're still talking about $120 million contracts, but you're not talking about $190 million contracts.
Yeah. All right. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Quick break. We're going to continue on the basketball tip. Colton wants to talk about Kawhi and if this run is changing the landscape of NBA free agency. Next.
Right now at Carl Tyler Chevrolet, take advantage of employee pricing and up to $7,500 in rebates on all 2018 Silverados. Get the most out of your summer with a reliable truck that'll take you anywhere during Carl Tyler Chevrolet's June Silverado sell down. Save $11,719 on select 2018 Silverado 1500s. View our full inventory at gmofmontana.com or 3663 North Reserve Street. Carl Tyler Chevrolet. Find new roads.
The splash of launching a new boat, the quiet of a favorite campsite, the noisy fun of a family barbecue on your new deck. Whatever summer sounds like to you, make it happen with a personal loan from Farmers State Bank. 9 locations to serve you, or start the loan application process online at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, your Montana bank since 1907, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Down, pump it up. Pump it up.
What goes perfectly with a crisp and delicious salad? Energy drinks, of course. At Town Pump, you can grab your Bang and Rain 16-ounce energy drinks, 2 for $4. And don't forget your greens with a chef salad in the deli, only $4.49. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
Right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Springtime is the time to buy a new Polaris off-road vehicle. During the spring sales event, rebates go as high as $1,500 and financing is as low as 3.99%. Live your life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. Whatever you're looking for, now is the time to take your pick from the off-road's best-selling lineup. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $1,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Spring Sales event at Kurtz Polaris. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Recreate the right way with Kurtz Polaris, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Offer valid in U.S. through 5/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Future Montana Grizz football player Ryder Meyer of Fairfield product guided the North to a 41-34 win in the annual Class B Big Sky All-Star football game in Billings on Saturday. 5'9", 185-pound quarterback threw for 200 yards, rushed for another 177, and combined for 4 touchdowns to earn offensive MVP. Meyer hit Missoula Loyola's Cooper Waters for a 77-yard touchdown on the first play of the game. He was also, Meyer, the first player to commit to Montana for the class of 2019 and sign with the Grizzlies in February.
Montana's all-star boys basketball team extended its winning streak to 15 games by holding on for a 103-100 win over Wyoming in the Midland Roundtable Montana-Wyoming All-Star Basketball Classic on Friday in Billings. Montana now leads the all-time series 60-27. Shoto's Sayer Payton scored a game-high 21 points to leave Montana, while Melstone's Brody Grebe added 13.
The Montana Girls All-Stars won for the 6th straight time over Wyoming with an 84-66 win at Montana State Billings. 5 future Montana State Billings players made up the starting lineup for the Montana All-Stars. That's pretty good. 4 of them scored in double digits.
And finally, Big Fork native McKenna Morley earned first-team All-American honors at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships over the weekend. She finished 6th in the women's 5,000 meters.
Say congratulations. Work so hard, forgot how to vacation. They ain't never had the dedication. People hating, say we changing, look, we made it. Yeah, we made it.
At Super 70 Sports
That was never friendly. Yeah.
says, working on my 2020 presidential campaign platform, the first plank, put Julius Erving on the dollar bill. I'm with that. Get my vote. Dr. J out there. I gotta watch some old school basketball. I need to get into some of the archives. Check it out.
The 1970s in professional basketball is one of the most fascinating things in the world to me, because then people forget this. The NBA was not on TV at all. There was no such thing as live NBA.
Yeah,
until the
NBA
80s.
on NBC was the thing that initiated that.
All the Bill Russell championships, you were watching those at 10:30 at night on tape delay. There's no live anything. And then in the 70s, with this fledgling ABA league where half the players were going there, you had this dilution of talent in the NBA. And then, if you believe most of the people that covered the league back then, the infiltration of cocaine into the American just lexicon and just landscape was more profound in the NBA than maybe anywhere else. And that's why I think you saw so many uber talented but hard luck stories. I mean, Michael Ray Richardson from the University of Montana is a great example. Gaz, number 4 overall pick, whose career just went up in flames because he just got, he just went down the wrong path. I mean, David Thompson, same thing, so many guys like that. But I also just think it's fascinating because there was 2 different leagues with great talent in each. And, George Gervin, Julius Erving, those guys played their younger days in a league that no one really was caring about. And then all of a sudden you get the merger, then you have this weird like late 70s thing where you have these teams that were new to the league winning the championship, which was just completely disrupting of the status quo. And then Larry Bird and Magic Johnson get drafted and they save the whole league, and the rest is history. And now here we are with the NBA, arguably the most popular league in the world and definitely one of the two most popular pro sports leagues in America. And I just think it's fascinating because there's like this lost generation, like guys like Bob McAdoo and George Gervin, and I mean even Julius Erving to a certain extent, they don't get the due credit that I think they deserve because there was just this muddled time in NBA history and just in professional basketball history.
I think the 1970s are a pretty fascinating moment on Earth.
I always say if I could be my age and myself, I wish I was 32 years old in 1971.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios in the year of our Lord 2019. Such as it is. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. You're looking at me like you got more that you say. I'm going to say.
No, I was just thinking of what decade you'd be most suited for. You're like such a 90s guy. If you were your age in 1991, that would be perfect.
The 90s, yes. The century, 14. Get me into Stone and Fire. That's what I need.
Your bum foot, you couldn't track down any animal. You're not making any animal. You're not making any rock shelter.
Yeah, but I wouldn't have had to go on the Crusades, so that would have been good. I wouldn't even had to have been a conscientious objector. I could have just, had infirmity. Let's move on. At Gus Tutel on Twitter, people, go check it out. Hey, Kawhi Leonard is a Toronto Raptor. I don't know if you knew this. And the Toronto Raptors are one game away from obtaining their first championship. If they were to do that tonight or on some subsequent game, it will be Kawhi Leonard's championship. And while all the guys, including Lowry and Nick Nurse significantly, and the addition of Marc Gasol, will be, without question, have their place in the lore of the Toronto Raptors. In one season, Kawhi Leonard will usurp for sure DeMar DeRozan and perhaps Vince Carter atop the pyramid of Toronto Raptors.
Oh, no doubt. It's already happened.
One season.
Yeah, it's
well,
here.
I don't know if it's happened, but it would happen if they win.
Statistically, the only playoff run we've ever seen that is even comparable to the one Kawhi Leonard's on is Michael Jordan 1993.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just speaking about the duration that that Vince Carter had and that DeMar DeRozan had is in danger of falling to second place in total because of one season of Kawhi Leonard.
Sure, but I mean, this season, if the Raptors win the championship, this is a completely unparalleled situation. Besides, save one team,
all-timer. Absolutely.
The Dallas Mavericks are the only team that's won one championship. Everybody else has won multiple because there's not a lot of teams that even gotten to the table.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean? Like there's very few teams that even get to the finals. Only half the teams in the NBA have even reached the NBA finals. And the fact that they're an expansion team, the newest team in the league, insane.
You, though, have some thoughts, and I thought they were good thoughts, interesting thoughts, about how this also could change the course and the thinking of NBA free agency, particularly with the so-called rent-a-player or the one-and-doneer or the guy with 1 year left on his deal. Do tell.
How often have we heard, this superstar wants out here, but this suitor and this suitor and this suitor get crossed off the list because that guy won't stay there. We're not if we're the Toronto Raptors trading for Kawhi Leonard, we're not going to trade for Kawhi Leonard because we know Kawhi Leonard's only going to be a rent-a-player. He's going to come for a year and then leave. Well, the fact that the Toronto Raptors are in their first NBA Finals in franchise history, and if they win tonight, they're going to be the champions of the NBA.
Already vindicated.
It's already vindicated.
Yes,
so I think that it changes the way that teams think about this because if you are a have-not team, there's the haves and the have-nots of the NBA. If you're a have-not team, say you're the New Orleans Pelicans or you're the whoever you might be able to name, the Minnesota Timberwolves, on down the line, teams that have only even sniffed the playoffs. Memphis,
Portland. I mean,
And you're thinking, okay, are we going to unload all our assets to get one guy for 1 year? Well, if you can win a championship, absolutely. Absolutely. It's like Daryl Morey is a very polarizing GM in the NBA. He's the Houston Rockets general manager. He's the one that's basically created this analytics-based system and emphasized threes being worth more than twos. And his whole theory, though, is the 5% theory. If you can get your team to having a 5% chance of winning the NBA championship, which on the first day of the season, even the Golden State Warriors, usually Vegas odds only have about an 8 to 10% chance of winning the NBA championship, which is a huge amount when you're talking about a 30-team league. But if you can even get your team to having a 5% chance of winning the championship, you do whatever it takes to get there. And if you can trade for a player like Kawhi Leonard, that puts you in the 5%. I just think this changes a lot of things, specifically with a guy named Anthony Davis. I think the number one thing that has not been talked about with the Anthony Davis saga is that Anthony Davis basically demanded a trade January 1 this year, and then he shut it down for the rest of the year. Anthony Davis is under contract till next summer.
Right.
Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, these guys are free agents this summer. Anthony Davis is not. And if the Pelicans really wanted to, which I don't think that they will, but if they really wanted to, they could just sit on Anthony Davis. They could say, hey, we're not trading you. So show up and play or don't. But they could do that. They're not going to, but they could. But I just find it intriguing because now, if you knew you could, I'm trying to think of a team that would just benefit so much from Anthony Davis on like a 1 year. Like, what if the Phoenix Suns traded for Anthony Davis? And there's no chance he's going to re-sign there.
What if the Portland Trail Blazers?
Good one. It's a great one.
Right?
Totally.
I mean, roll right in there.
And if you could do that, if you could just get Anthony Davis for 1 year, win a championship, and you know he's leaving. He's going to go to L.A., he's going to go to New York, whatever. He floated today, by the way. He floated that L.A. and New York are his two top destinations. Surprise, surprise. I'm so surprised. This is a complete tangent, but I am so surprised that we've heard all this scuttle about people going to New York to revamp the Knicks. The Knicks are iconic franchise, blah, blah, blah. I mean, the Knicks haven't won anything in 45 years. I don't know where that comes from, first of all. But secondly, I mean, I get the allure of the Big Apple, biggest market in America.
MSG.
Madison Square Garden, consider this Mecca, blah, blah, blah. I get the whole thing. Also, obviously, playing in Hollywood, Los Angeles Lakers, I get the allure. Steve Ballmer, the Clippers, Doc Rivers, the way that they've structured the organization, all of a sudden that's a primetime deal, and it's the second largest market. I get it. What happened to the Bulls? I mean, the Bulls, that's a huge market with tons of tradition, and when you're talking about the producing of great basketball talent, where guys are from, I'd say the top five in America right now are Seattle, New York, L.A., and Chicago's right there, right? I mean, and then probably Washington, D.C., and Toronto. Those are like the six hottest of hotbeds. But Anthony Davis is from Chicago. How is that not on the list? I just think that that's crazy that there's not more scuttle for Chicago.
Let me ask you this. What are the five biggest markets in America?
New York, L.A., Chicago,
Yep.
Houston, Phoenix.
Houston, Phoenix. Who wants to go play for the Phoenix Suns? No one. Who wants to go play for the Houston Rockets? No one. They're great. They're very good right now because of the guys they've gotten in there. But Houston is, nobody wants to go, oh, it's a giant market. Yeah, let me get down there to Houston, Texas, and live my life in the oil fields of South Texas. That would be great. Same thing in Arizona. And
I think Houston has more appeal than maybe you're giving it credit for.
I mean,
but you're correct in assuming that Atlanta and Miami and D.C.
boom,
are all much more appealing markets.
Yes. So market size, it really has no bearing on it. It is the life, so to speak. And the coasts is where people want to be, buddy, not in the middle. They want to hang out in Houston and in Phoenix, and to an extent in Chicago. Now, Chicago, I would put Chicago really in its own spot. I think there's a lot of guys that would like to play and do like to be in Chicago. It is a giant major city with a lot of culture and things going on in its own right.
Also, brutal winters.
Yeah.
I think that plays a lot into this.
I mean, yeah, maybe so. I'll never understand any of the motivations for any of it because I'm so far to the other side that I can't even begin to empathize with somebody who's like, yes, give me that New York life. I've been to New York. You know what I didn't see? The sun, because it's covered up. Buildings everywhere, far as the eye can see, all the way up. You got to stand in an intersection and risk your life in front of a cab to look at the sun. Now, I'm not advocating looking at the sun, of course. That's bad for you. But you understand what I'm getting at. So I don't, and I mean, if you're a friend of the show, listener to the show, you already know my thoughts on SoCal. So I don't get personally any of this stuff. Give me Portland, give me Salt Lake all day long. Give me Memphis. You know what I mean? But that's, so I don't know. I don't know. Why wouldn't you want to go to Chicago and be a part of that? Maybe it's because if you went to New York and you did revitalize the Knicks, like in strictly a basketball sense, I get that all day long. If you go to Chicago, you know what you have the chance to be? At best, the distant second best.
It's true.
Not just as a player, but as a team. I mean, that's what you got. The Derrick Rose thing could have been glorious because he is a hometown
100%.
kid. So that was kind of a different deal from all that. But Derrick Rose could have met fulfilled all the potential that he had, never gotten injured and everything, and won championship or ships in Chicago. And you're still like, it is not, the rankings never, it's not even comparison that's happening. In that thing. So I think that might be part of it. So I don't know. I just don't understand all of that stuff.
There's a certain train of thought that Kawhi Leonard, the way he treated last season, and the distrust that just emerged between him and the Spurs organization, specifically him and the Spurs trainers, then that festered into a rift between him and front office management, including Greg Popovich. There's a train of thought that Kawhi Leonard wanted to be traded to Los Angeles. They wanted to be traded to a warm weather market, and that Greg Popovich sent him to Canada instead to spite him. Kawhi Leonard might get the last laugh when it comes to that. I don't know if that's necessarily a full truth. Regardless, I just think it's very interesting because if I'm the general manager of the New Orleans Pelicans, what has happened with Kawhi Leonard, and if I'm general managers around the league too, I'm way less hesitant to go trade for Anthony Davis. Because who cares? If he could put you over the top, then all of a sudden, that's the thing. Like I said, in my heart of hearts, I think Kawhi Leonard's leaving. Either way. But it's going to be a lot harder for him to leave the defending NBA champions than it is going to be for him to leave the runner-up. And if you can go get Anthony Davis and win a championship, that makes it a lot harder on him to leave too. I think there's a certain element as well, like we're talking about where would we want to live? Well, we come from a different perspective considering where we're from.
Sure.
But what do all the guys on the Seattle Seahawks tell you? That hardly any of them probably dreamt of living in Seattle someday until they lived there. And now they, all those guys that when they were on their way out or whatever, they all were talking about how much that they loved it, how much. And there's a great podcast with Doug Baldwin and Michael Bennett just talking about how much that city grasped their heart. A city like Portland, I feel like if you were quote unquote forced to play there because you got traded there,
it will love you back.
You will love it. You will like it a lot more than you thought you were. Well, I think it's a different situation though with like Memphis or Indianapolis or Oklahoma City. You're either going to love those or hate those. But I think that there's a certain character to some of the West Coast cities, specifically like Sacramento or Portland, where you'd like it a lot better than you think you would.
Here's the other thing I don't understand. You're not moving there to be an insurance agent. You're going to be a professional athlete making millions of dollars, and by the way, not there all that much. I mean, you're on the road half of the year that you're playing, which is only half of the year that exists on the calendar anyway, and then when you are at home, you're playing ball. So if you're a football player, it's different because you are there for the week and you go to practice and you come home. It's a little more normal. But you know what? You know what kind of life you're living in Cleveland, Ohio, making $7 million a year? A great one. A great one. No matter where you are. You know, the other example of this that goes back before Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. Paul George was the rent-a-player for 1 year that Oklahoma City got. Why are you going to get Paul George? Why are you going to trade away all these commodities to get, Victor Oladipo and so forth to get Paul George when he's just going to leave and go to Los Angeles? Well, guess what? He came, and he liked it, and he became better friends, great friends with Westbrook, and now he stayed. Now, is he happy that he made that choice? I don't know. Is he in it for the long haul? We've already talked about his contract. Nobody's at least 2 seasons and more. And so that worked out insofar as the players stayed. It didn't work out insofar they weren't any better, and they got bounced in 5 games in the first round of the playoffs. So the flip side of this is if you can, and you're in the hypothetical, get a guy that puts you over the top, obviously to win a championship and even to be in a finals, it's 100% worth it. But as you already pointed out, what's your best case scenario day one of the NBA? I mean, the Golden State Warriors, 8, 9, 10% at best. And they're a gross anomaly. I mean, to get to a 5% chance means you are an outstanding basketball team. And you know what? That's a 95% chance of not getting it done. And so is giving away all the assets for, I mean, if you go and you make it to the playoffs, even the second round of the playoffs, and then that guy leaves and now you stink and you have no assets, was that worth it? And I think that's a huge risk that the GMs still have to consider on things like this. But to put yourself in the mix, some places are just desperate to be relevant for once. You know, they just let's figure out a way to be relevant for once because nobody cares. And that is going to be appealing on a guy, say, like Anthony Davis right now. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. U.S. Open starts Thursday. We'll give you the odds, including for Phil.
Tutel and Nuanez. All guests join the show on the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Tutel and Nuanez.
Hey, Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer, Tommy, is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel and Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel and Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube.
Alpine Touch has mastered keeping your taste buds happy by spicing up anything you throw on the grill this summer. Now, let Alpine Touch keep your mouth watering whenever you want their new sunflower shooters. Their new jumbo sunflower seeds seasoned with Alpine Touch's world-famous all-purpose seasonings. And Alpine Touch sunflower shooters will be available all summer at every Osprey baseball home game. Available at retail locations around the state and online at alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at canyonrivergolfclub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce 2 of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 Open Range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
In western Montana, we know shopping local matters, but we also know that you're going to pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it. Well, not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with a staff of specialists that can answer any question. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and, are you ready, lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Brooks Koepka has never won any tournament on the PGA Tour that wasn't a major. He's also won 4 of the last 9 majors he's played in. What do we think about Brooks Koepka? I'll tell you what Vegas thinks. Pretty good. It's Tutel and Nuanez, 109 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at KurtzPolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web, 109ESPN.com. Listen to Stream. Stream's brought to us by Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. Coulter, the U.S. Open, you and I are excited. It's always nice to have a major week going on. I don't like the fact that they moved. Was it the PGA that they moved up in the calendar? I don't like that.
I also got to correct you. Brooks Koepka won the Waste Management Open in 2015. So he has one PGA win besides.
Of course he won the Waste Management. Of course he did, with them throwing 40s out of the stands as you walk up 16.
Hey, just so you know, sometime before you die, we're going to that.
Oh, buddy, don't kid yourself. It's Masters 2, Waste Management 1 on my list of where I want to go.
people.
You know, our esteemed colleague over there at SID at the University of Montana, Eric Tabor.
Oh, that's right. We went
there
last time we saw him.
Yes,
a couple times ago, I guess, when we saw him. Yep.
Yes, he attended. He's got people who know people, and he got out there. I'm telling you, his reviews were very high. Not surprisingly, I mean, how could you not have fun at a golf tournament / Marilyn Manson concert? So Brooks Koepka comes into this thing the odds-on betting favorite at 15-2, which is just half a tick better than Dustin Johnson and Rory McIlroy, who are both at 8-1. Did you see what Rory did yesterday?
I saw what he did 2 days ago. I saw his highlights from Saturday when he shot a 64, and he put no less than 3 shots 3 inches from the cup. I also saw him hit a 374-yard drive.
He
what did he do yesterday?
Went to 17. Don't look it up.
I'm not.
Went to 17. Eagled the par 5 17th to step to the 18th tee, needing a birdie for a 59. Bogeyed 18 and shot a 61. 61, blew the field away, won by 7 shots at LO, 22 under par in the Canadian Open. Rory McIlroy, boys and girls, look out. So now, look.
The podcasters I listen to have been talking about how Rory is playing the best he's ever played over the last 6 months. He just hasn't been quite able to break through.
Here's the other thing. Here's the thing that I'm going to give you some of the nuance that I think I understand about golf that maybe the common golf fan doesn't. And then I will also express to you where and how that nuance ends for me very, very quickly. You look at guys going out there and they shoot 22 under 1 week, and then the next week they don't make the cut. And you go, how in the world? And anybody who's a golfer that's played golf understands the finickiness of golf and your swing, and they go, my goodness, even the pros, their consistency just isn't there. And that is certainly true. You can play great 1 week, even as a professional golfer, and by your professional standards, play just awful the next week, and it all falls apart. That said, the thing that I don't think people appreciate is how much different courses and different styles of golf play to certain guys and not to other guys. If you played Augusta every single week, Tiger Woods would win 82% of his lifetime tournaments because it is the perfect course. Well, a lot of courses have been historically the perfect course for Tiger, so maybe a bad example. But and that's not to say that Rory McIlroy isn't going to go out and play great at Pebble. And this is where it ends. I have no idea from course to course which guy's game. I don't know them well enough and what they do well, and frankly, how these courses are set up well enough, other than the U.S. Open has long, rough. Great insight, Tutel. Thank you for that. But I don't know the style of golf to match it up with the golfer. I know which golfers are great. I know how great Dustin Johnson is in terms of talent. Rory McIlroy the same. and what Brooks is in terms of his sort of mental approach to it and his unflappable, other than the last round of the last major, which he did win anyways. Sort of the way that he is, but it matters where these tournaments are played, and it's not by accident very often that certain guys all of a sudden you go, well, Louis Oosthuizen, where he hasn't been heard from at all, but all of a sudden at Pebble, and I'm only giving this as an example, I don't know, but he goes out there and is a top 10 and maybe in contention the last couple of groups on Sunday. That happens because certain guys play better in certain weeks, yes, but also because certain courses match certain guys really, really well. Historically, Pebble has matched Tiger really, really well, and he's played great there. By the way, Pebble has matched Phil pretty well. Phil Mickelson, a record, I can't decide if this is a record you love to have or hate to have. 6 second places at the U.S. Open. 6 of them. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride for Lefty at the Open. And as just about everybody understands by now, he's one major away from the career slam. He would become the 6th player in the history of the sport to win all 4 of them if he was to win a U.S. Open, and he's been the runner-up 6 times, which is just almost unimaginable. Now his Sunday, Coulter, will be Phil Mickelson's 49th birthday on Sunday at Pebble Beach, and if he's around, it would be something if he was able to make a run at this. I mean, can you imagine the crowds on Phil's birthday if he's in the hunt? He is 50-1 right now, and I may say quite a ways back in terms of there's probably, looking at 20 golfers that they have, in front of Phil in terms of at least the betting side of this thing. But it's Brooks, Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy. Tiger Woods is alone at 9-1, and then there's a pretty significant drop-off after that with Jordan Spieth and Patrick Cantlay at 16-1. I always am skeptical of the Tiger Woods thing. I already said that Tiger Woods played is great at Pebble Beach and traditionally does, and we saw what he did at the Masters, and so that brings a lot of magic back. But when you're looking at Vegas odds, Tiger is he is not representative of golf. He's representative of betting. He's representative of Tiger. So all these other guys, you could go, yeah, this guy, probably going to play pretty well. Tiger Woods, he might miss the cut. He might win the thing by 10. I don't know. But I do know that people are going to put their dollars on Tiger because of the mystique of Tiger, not necessarily because of what he comes into this tournament bringing to the table. The answer to that question, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, Tiger Woods has won 81 tournaments, right?
Seems like a lot.
Tiger Woods has won at Bay Hill 8 times. He's won at TPC Southwind 7 times. Torrey Pines 7 times. He's won the Bridgestone Invite 8 times. He's won the Arnold Palmer 8 times. He's won the Masters 5 times. So that's close to 50 of his 81 wins at 6 courses.
Right.
Tiger wins at these courses. Yes. And he doesn't really, I mean, that's why when he was at his best, when he was shredding not only Pebble Beach and Torrey Pines, but also Carnoustie and St. Andrews and the British Open courses and, even some of the PGA courses that he won on. That was when he was so impressive because he was winning not just at the courses that are catered to and his game favors.
Right.
But, I mean, you look at all these. I mean, to me, it's no surprise that even post-injury, I mean, since that 2013 year when he came back.
Won 5 tournaments, I think, that year.
He won the Farmers Insurance Open for the 7th time, the Cadillac Championship for the 7th time, the Arnold Palmer Invite for the 8th time, the Bridgestone Invite for the 8th time. So the same tournaments that he'd always been dominating at, just the courses that he's most familiar with. Yeah. So it is a good point. How do they set up? But I think that's why Pebble Beach is intriguing because Tiger's been great at Pebble Beach. Phil Mickelson's been great at Pebble Beach. Obviously, Rory McIlroy is killing it right now. And Brooks Koepka is the only player in the history of the PGA PGA Tour to hold back-to-back titles at 2 different majors at once. Mm-hmm. He's not won. He has won the U.S. Open. He's back-to-back U.S. Open champion, back-to-back PGA champion.
And when you talk about the setup, the course changes, but there's always signatures to U.S. Open courses, right? One of which, of course, is the long grass. But it's traditionally the most difficult course setup that they have. Just incredibly quick greens and all that stuff. It's supposed to be the greatest challenge, and they want guys winning the U.S. Open at close to even par. Like that's what they're going for. And Brooks Koepka has proven that he's got the ability to do just that, which is why he is the favorite heading into the week, even though he is, not the best golfer. I'm not going to make my pick here.
Yep, more on this later on in the week.
I like, though. A couple guys I like. Quick break. Colter wants to talk the NFL. Who am I to say no?
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes, too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Jayco and Rangish Brothers are teaming up once again. We take pride in being Western Montana's #1 Jayco dealer and strive to continually offer you the best quality, pricing, and reliability. To celebrate the arrival of summer, we are offering June hot buys. From RVs to parts and service, we got you covered. Save big on Jayco J-Flight SLX, 264 bunkhouse travel trailer, Sleep 7 starting at only $14,995 with payments as low as $149 per month OAC. Don't miss our June hot buys going on now. Only where a handshake means something. Rangish Brothers RV Center.
Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
Still emerging from your winter hibernation and need to get your bearings straight? Cruise on down to Borda, Missoula for all your spring and summer needs. Come check out their men's and women's streetwear, sunglasses, and shoes from brands like Vans, Adidas, Thrasher, Volcom, and the original Borda Missoula brand. They also have all your skating needs covered, from tune-ups to fresh-made custom boards. Borda, Missoula, Missoula's original board shop since 1989, on the Hip Strip, 618 South Higgins.
On September 14th, Montana plays at one of the hallowed venues in college football when the Grizz head to Autzen Stadium to take on the Oregon Ducks. All summer long, Whitmer Brothers Brewing will be providing you with the opportunity to win a pair of tickets to the Grizz Ducks Showdown in September. All you need to do is register at designated locations around Missoula, then attend a live broadcast of Tutela Nuanez to win tickets. Stay tuned to ESPN Missoula for participating locations and keep an eye out for Whitmer Brothers Hefeweizen on tap in the Garden City. Whitmer Brothers Hefe, the original American-style Hefeweizen.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
I'm a scratch. Tutela Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. By the way, we're talking golf here, people. Future Montana Grizz football player, now we're talking football, Ryder Meyer of Fairfield Product, guided the North to a 41-34 win in the annual Class B Big Sky All-Star football game in Billings on Saturday. The 5'9", 185-pound quarterback threw for 200 yards, rushed for 177 as well, and combined for 4 touchdowns, earning offensive MVP. First play of the game, how about a 77-yard touchdown pass to Missoula Loyola's Cooper Waters? That's pretty good. Meyer was the first player to commit to the University of Montana from the class of 2019, signed with the Grizz in February.
Montana's all-star boys basketball team extended its winning streak to 15 games by holding on for a 103-100 win over Wyoming in the Midland Round Table Montana-Wyoming All-Star Basketball Classic on Friday in Billings. Montana now leads the all-time series against the Cowboy State 60-27. Chodo's Sayer Payton scored a game-high 21 points to lead Montana, while Millstone's Brody Grebe added 13.
The Montana Girls All-Stars won for the 6th straight time over Wyoming with an 84-66 win at Montana State Billings. 5 future MSU Billings players made up the starting lineup for the All-Stars. 4 of them scored in double figures.
Finally, Big Fork native McKenna Morley earned first-team All-American honors at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships over the weekend.
Good afternoon. How we doing out there in the world? Pretty good? Nice day? All good. 210 Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Philly. Sealy. Not silly. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on the World Wide Web as well, 1029ESPN.com. If you missed anything in the first hour, check it out on the podcast. Podcast available on TuneIn Radio app, iTunes, Spotify. And it is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotels.
Sayre.
Yes.
It's Sayre Patton, not Sayre Payton. I said it wrong.
Oh.
Shoto Sayre Patton.
You sure it's not Sawyer?
I think it's Sayre.
Probably is.
Sean Rainey is in real time texting me pronunciations. Thank you, Sean.
He does his research.
Sawyer Patton. Sawyer Patton.
Okay.
Good player. One other thing.
Yeah.
I wrote the Sports Center a little long so we can get this in here, but McKenna Morley now is a 5-time All-American at Colorado.
Seems like a lot.
Amazing. One of the great athletes to come out of Montana the last 10 years.
If this was not track and cross country, specifically cross country, but the saga of her committing to the University of Montana because she's from Big Fork and the rift that happened that ended up with her transferring out.
She won a Big Sky championship, right?
I
think she won a cross country championship and then transferred at semester.
And then transferred. And the coach no longer being retained ostensibly because what could have been the greatest runner in the history of the university didn't see eye to eye for whatever reason. I have no idea what the back. But if this happened in football or in basketball, I mean, this would have been one of the most publicized and critiqued events that happened. You're talking about one of the greatest athletes that could have ever been at the University of Montana is running at the University of Colorado. And, by the way, evidently running pretty well. 5-time All-American. 3 of those.
This was her first team in outdoor track.
But she's got it in cross country.
She was a first-team All-American in cross country in the fall, and she was previously a second-team All-American 3 times in track.
Yeah. Before we get into this football stuff, and this is going to spill us later, and that's okay. We can move some of this stuff back. But it would be, I think, crazy to just not acknowledge what happened in the Dominican.
We have to talk about this.
Was it over the weekend or yesterday?
I think it was last night, late last night.
With David Ortiz being shot, we are thankful to say that he was reported to be stable. I don't know, the extent of the damage. Certainly there is damage, obviously. But, I mean, to be approached and shot in the back at point blank in what was I don't understand. I don't know the context of this at all. What I know is that he's sitting at a table and is walked up to and shot in a restaurant or a club or whatever it is, some place, some public place. And it is obviously horrific, horrendous, despicable in every sense. And shocking. Like it doesn't, when you think about, the fact that people are walking around shooting people is crazy. The fact that people are walking around and shooting people where there has not been any sort of confrontation or what, I just don't understand this I mean, I don't know. There's not words. It's ineffable. There's nothing to express about this that will make this make any sense or whatever. We certainly add ours for what it's worth to the outpouring of, of thoughts and considerations and hopes and prayers for David Ortiz and a full recovery. And to say nothing of being a professional baseball player, to say nothing of being a soon-to-be Hall of Famer, is there a more beloved figure, specifically in Boston, but really at large, than the happy, big-beared, big-smiling David Ortiz? I mean, the what and who he is to baseball, to the city of Boston, and as just a figure of almost universal jolly, for lack of a better word. I mean, you just can't imagine. It didn't even seem real when I read this and saw what had happened. And so, anyway, get better, get back, and our absolute best to David and his family. But just a stunning thing to have come across out of the clear blue.
It's sort of a striking scene to imagine too, because most reports are that as soon as this happened, the crowd mobbed this gunman and beat him. And I was thinking, and then as I was thinking this while driving to work this morning, Dan Le Batard brought up exactly what I was thinking. And he said, is there an athlete in America that is beloved enough where in a public place, if this person was shot, that people would come to this person's defense physically? I think that's a very deep question just in terms of the culture we live in, because I do think that, your wife and I have talked about this since your return from the Philippines, a third world country, just how much that struck her, how much of a fear-based culture we live in America, for better or worse, mostly for worse, but we're not here to politicize this whatsoever. But I did find it a fascinating thought, because I don't know if there's an amount of reverence we could have for an athlete in America where people would run to their defense physically, not because of the fact that there's not a beloved enough athlete, but just because of the fact that the fear that just exists. I think gunshots equal scattering, equal run for your lives, especially considering how many public shootings we've had in America. That's just something to think about. But I think it does speak to how revered David Ortiz is, that was the case. People jumped on this person and beat him and got the gun away from him, and then he was arrested.
Yeah,
very different scene than you'd imagine almost anywhere in the world, given a public place where he's shot. I want to know what is at the bottom of this, because some say a robbery, but they're investigating it as a planned hit. And when you look at the grainy video, the guy walks up to him, sticks the gun in his back, and shoots him. There was no give me your money.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm with you. I don't want to speculate on this, and it seems unconscionable. It seems crazy that this was random. Let's put it like that. I mean, it is David Ortiz, for crying out loud. So it just crazy. But thankfully, very thankfully, he's still with us and here, and we hope that, of course, that he gets all the way back, because I mean, he was so great, first of all, as a player, and what he did and being part of breaking the curse in Boston is something that's, that will never, ever, ever be forgotten, really baseball-wide, certainly, obviously, in New England. But also, I remember after the Boston Marathon bombing, and he walked out, and here's a guy not from the United States of America, not from Boston, and he's the guy who's the spokesperson, grabs the microphone, and has some very Bostonian choice words for the perpetrators of that, and also for what the city was going to, how they would respond to that. And talk about a guy from the Dominican coming and being the absolute megaphone voice for what everybody thought and felt nationwide after that, and specifically in the city of Boston after that. And those are the sorts of things that you can't just hire somebody to come up and say something. The fact that he is who he is, the personality, the ball player, the figure, the personality, all of those things play into that. You can't replicate that. And so he comes in, and I encourage you to go watch the video, because it is it's short but stirring, and I think so apropos, and again, just served to solidify yet another tie of David Ortiz to the Red Sox and the city of Boston. And we know that everybody, and especially there, are our deepest concerns and hopes for him.
Last medical report I read, he's still in intensive care, but the prognosis is good. He had to have a part of his intestine removed as well as his gallbladder because of internal bleeding. But David Ortiz, to me, David Ortiz is one of the most striking examples of finding a place that fits you and having that accelerate your playing career, but also just one of those guys that if he wouldn't have had the restart, who knows if he would have been a Hall of Famer, because David Ortiz was a very middling, average to maybe not even average player when he was with the Minnesota Twins. People forget that he played for the Twins for 6 years, and he never played more than 120 games. He never hit more than 262. And he gets traded to Boston and becomes one of the most feared hitters in the entire American League. The only other guy I can think of that had a career renaissance like him is Jim Thome. And that Jim Thome didn't have to change venues. Jim Thome just changed positions. You know, Jim Thome came in as a third baseman, and he was just a kind of middling guy. And then as soon as he changed to first base, then he could bulk up and, you know, take it for what it's worth, the generation he played in. He's never really been implicated in that sort of stuff, but there is some speculation. Regardless, the only two guys that really had second halves of their careers that were just so unbelievable and Hall of Fame-like that I can think of are those two guys. And David Ortiz is so beloved that he's one of the only implicated steroid users in all of baseball that's still beloved.
Right.
But David Ortiz.
What about Sammy Sosa?
That's a whole different can of worms. Gosh, Dan Levitar was talking about that this morning too. That's a slippery slope when you're talking about Sammy.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Coulter, I'm kiboshing the NFL. We don't have time for it right now, so I'm going to continue on this because
let's do it. We'll save this NFL stuff.
This brings up an interesting question that I have for you. Everybody who plays sports, everybody who plays tiddlywinks, for crying out loud, wants to win. Okay? Hello? Right? You play to win the game. Okay, we get all that.
Let's get Herm Edwards on the show.
Let's make a call. Get Herm in here. Maybe we get Marvin Lewis with him, you know?
Idaho State.
Huh?
Yeah. From Idaho State. Well, Big Sky tie.
Throwing it back. And certainly as a professional, I mean, the championships, hoisting the trophy, you know, one of the things I love about it is it doesn't even matter that, you know, multimillionaires, these guys, when they win it for the first time, they've done everything that you can do. When you win whatever the championship is, it taps in. You would have the same reaction if you had $0 or all the dollars. You know, it's the joy of having accomplished something that you've been working toward. And obviously David Ortiz he's got it all because he's got the championships, he's got the career, and he's got the love of the city. But I've often wondered, would you rather be, you know, a guy like, this is a bad choice because I don't want to paint him in a bad picture, but Alex Rodriguez, aside from people's personal like or dislike, I mean, a guy who went from a couple of teams is a Hall of Famer in terms of his numbers, obviously, and in terms of his skills and stuff, won a World Series, but is a man of no nation when it comes to a city. Like, if you were thinking about Alex Rodriguez and does what city loves him, there wouldn't even be an answer for that. Whereas, and since we're in the Northwest, take Jay Buhner, right?
Totally.
Bones up there in Seattle. Had a very good career, was an outstanding pro, never won anything. I mean, he was on that great team in the 2000s, but they, never won a World Series. But he's still hawking, trucks in Seattle. Everywhere he goes, he's not buying meals. You know what I mean? I think he's on the broadcast for the Mariners, and that's sort of an aside. But the city of Seattle loves Jay Buhner, loves what he represented to that team. Edgar Martinez, the same. He's on the bench for crying out, he's coaching. But these guys who, because of how they played and they spent their careers at a place, and even though they didn't win at the highest level, and maybe that's again, here they are, at 50 years of age, and and have a place in which they are, not merely accepted, but revered in a lot of cases as the professional athlete, and not just floating off into, wherever you go. You're like, there's a home there and a care. And you get this in a lot. I mean, all the cities have guys like that who were, when you think about such and such hockey, such and such football in this city in this time, it's, this guy is forever going to be able to walk into this town and have the key to the city, And I think, to me, I would much rather that than not so much chasing championships or whatever, but having been so great and wonderful or whatever at the sport without having actually connected to the place or the organization or the city that I was in. And I understand free agency across the board makes this a much more fluid concept than what it once was. But I still think that you have this, and I still think guys create this in a lot of places to this day.
The guy's got to create it, though, right?
Yes, you have to give of yourself, not just on the field, but civically to do that.
The Red Sox won the World Series last year, right? Mm-hmm. Who's the defining member, the face of that team? They don't really have one comparatively, right?
Yeah, I mean,
like those first Red Sox teams, obviously rallying from a 3-0 deficit and winning the World Series and all that 1 month in October, the documentary, all that stuff, and breaking the curse. Everything's going to make it way more memorable. Yeah. But those Red Sox teams were also just so memorable. Period.
Yeah, with
Dustin Pedroia, and they had multiple really memorable guys. Like last year's Red Sox team was just so stacked, but there's not like a guy you can point to where you're like, that guy is the captain, that guy's the face. Mm-hmm. And it's very similar to, I think, a lot of the recent teams. I think you probably say George Springer was the dude for the Astros, but is it? Because then Carlos Correa stole the thunder with the proposal at the end, but then Jose Altuve is actually the captain.
Totally.
Yeah, who would you say for the Kansas City Royals? I mean, that was an epic breakthrough.
Totally.
But it was such a team thing.
Group.
Who do you say? I mean, Hosmer maybe, or Lorenzo Cain, but it wasn't the one guy. It was such a plucky effort by the entire franchise. It's not really like we have these defining guys like David Ortiz. David Ortiz just defined himself so much because of his personality, his nickname, but also just his propensity to come up in the clutch. He's just so good when it mattered the most.
Well, and I think, too, David Ortiz was not maybe even necessarily the best player on that team.
Oh, no, Manny Ramirez is the best player on that team. Manny Ramirez is one of the greatest players of all time.
He is the guy, though, that stuck in Boston the longest and had the personality that was so – I mean, he was a lovable character.
Unlike Manny Ramirez.
Totally.
100%.
And that's why – I mean, maybe that's the answer more than anything. Because if you were to say Charles Barkley, what city does Charles go to? I mean, you might say Philadelphia.
He belongs to two, probably.
But or none. Or, better said, all of them. Because everybody loves Chuck. And nobody, who talks about, and he didn't win a championship, so maybe that's part of it, but who was chasing championships in free agency more than Charles Barkley late in his career? And Karl Malone, the same thing. Nobody, but people don't, like Karl Malone, well, what's he up to? I don't know. And maybe just because he's not a public figure doesn't mean, just getting the
Malone's
vibes.
lifting.
Working the traps.
He's hunting. He's got an antelope strapped over his back. He's running the mountain up and down a second time.
And I'm not saying Karl Malone's not happy or whatever. I have no idea.
I think Karl Malone's probably the happiest guy in the world. Karl Malone probably hasn't spoken to a human in 5 years.
Maybe so. Maybe he's just a recluse, and that's good for him.
He's either on the boat fishing.
But, Chuck, who not only didn't shy away from controversy, but was a Halian in many ways as a player on and off the court in his professional days, has had he's out there, he's as honest as anybody, says everything that he thinks and all of that, but has transformed himself into this beloved figure. Who else? George Foreman, the same thing, where he's this giant, tough, angry guy boxing, knocking people out, and now he's hawking out meat grills, to everybody in the world and grinning from ear to ear all day long. You know what I mean? And I just think that is the sort of thing that if you are able to do that as a professional athlete, the world is your oyster, man. The world's your oyster because people want to love you. People they want to love you.
I can't remember who it was, but it was somebody that was a guest on a podcast I was listening to the other day, and the subject was just how big a drama queens all the guys in the NBA are now. And it's something that we've talked about a lot on this show, and it's something that even the most casual fan can observe, and I think it's something that turns a lot of people off from the NBA. But this person, they said, maybe it's Chauncey Billups, and he said, of all the guys that used to play that I wish could step into the league right now, just because he would make everybody just shut their mouths, is Larry Bird. I just was laughing so hard thinking about Larry Bird. You know, he walks out the tunnel. He can't even take 3 steps without teetering because his back is so stiff. And then he goes and drops 40 on you. I got to remember who it was, because it wasn't Chauncey Billups, so someone played against him. But he talked about, somebody made a quote in the paper about how Larry Bird couldn't guard him. And then Larry Bird comes out and just sits at half court, tying his shoes, doesn't even warm up, and just kept saying to whoever it was, I'm going to get 40 on you tonight, and then goes and drops 44. I would just love to see that surly dude in this NBA.
Absolutely. Now there's so much more to say, but who's got the time? NFL next.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate. Springtime is the time to buy a new Polaris off-road vehicle. During the spring sales event, rebates go as high as $1,500 and financing is as low as 3.99%. Live your life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. Whatever you're looking for, now is the time to take your pick from the off-road's best-selling lineup. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $1,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Spring Sales event at Kurtz Polaris. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Recreate the right way with Kurtz Polaris, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Offer valid in U.S. through 5/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
Treat Dad right Father's Day with the Montana Club's awesome all-you-can-eat buffet, featuring all of the slow-roasted prime rib and glazed ham Dad can put away, plus bacon, sausage, eggs, sweet treats, fresh fruit, and more. Or bring them in for dear old Dad dinner specials like osso buco and steak Sinatra. We'll even treat Dad to a free brewski on Father's Day. Father's Day all-you-can-eat buffet from 8 to 2, or palate-pleasing Papa dinner specials 3 to close. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, but we also know that you're going to pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it. Well, not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with a staff of specialists that can answer any question. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and, are you ready, lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Hey, howdy. Hope you're having a great day. It's Tutel Nuanez. Here's some Sports Center. Future Montana Grizz football player Ryder Meyer, a Fairfield product, guided the North to a 41-34 win in the annual Class B Big Sky All-Star football game. 5'9", 185-pound quarterback threw for 200 yards, rushed for another 177, threw a 77-yard touchdown to Missoula Loyola's Cooper Waters on the first play of the game and was the MVP. Meyer was also the first player to commit to Montana during the class of 2019. He signed with the Grizzlies in February.
Montana's All-Star boys basketball team extended its winning streak to 15 games by holding on for a 103-100 win over Wyoming in the Midland Roundtable Montana-Wyoming All-Star Basketball Classic on Friday in Billings. Montana now leads the all-time series 60-27 Shoto's Sawyer Patton scored a game-high 21 points to lead the Montana All-Stars, while Melstone's Brody Greeby added 13.
The Montana Girls All-Stars won for the sixth straight time over Wyoming with an 84-66 win at MSU Billings. 5 future MSUB players made up the starting lineup for the Montana All-Stars. 4 of them scored in double figures.
And finally, Big Fork native McKenna Morley earned first-team All-American honors at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships over the weekend. One of Montana's greatest runners, finished 6th in the women's 5,000 meters. She has now earned All-American honors 5 times in her illustrious career.
David Ortiz is out of the hospital. He's headed to Boston.
The Red Sox are getting him flown there, right? So that their medical staff can treat him?
Yeah, maybe so. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We're broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You want to call? Ring us up. 329-1899-406. 329-1899. Call us right now. Be happy to have you on the show. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. 90 minutes from tip of Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Obviously, do or die for the Golden State Warriors. They're down 3-1. The entire game, pregame, in fact, even as well, can be heard right here on 102.9 ESPN Radio. As soon as we're done here, we'll send you out to the north, as it were. Actually, you ready for this? You ready for this? You ready to have your mind blown, Coulter?
I can't wait.
We will be sending people south to Toronto.
I see what you did there.
Yes.
Interesting.
So all this We the North stuff, well, no.
That's just so funny. You know what makes me so happy about you?
Tell me. I mean, I love this.
That you're just not a conformist, except for when it comes to sports.
Well,
I am so happy that we haven't had to talk about Game of Thrones on the show. Because
what does that have to do with my?
Because the North. That's the whole thing. Like, it's such part of the American lexicon now.
Oh,
like the North. That's what the Game of Thrones is all about.
Is We the North from Game of Thrones?
Yes. Yes, what? Because they're trying to defend the Northern Kingdom, and that's like where it all comes to be. And the Winter Walkers are the evil things that everybody's got to kill. And here's the thing, dude. I watched 5 episodes of Game of Thrones. It's very well done. I understand why it's so popular. Because it not only taps into our reverence for history and a life that maybe was more hard than our own. And not only does it tap into the love of medieval times and the monarchies and stuff.
The 1490s.
Not only where you think you'd be perfect, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's about family. It's about conquering things in the name of your family. And it's well written. The character development is really complicated. You can tell already just 5 episodes in. All I'm saying is that I get the appeal. What I don't get is how crazy people are about this thing. Not in just that they like it, but if you tell them that you never watched it, it's like you straight peed in their Cheerios. I don't know what. It's like it's a with us or against us thing, and it's like if you don't watch this, what is wrong with you?
Well, now at times you're right about the sports thing on me because I have been guilty of that at a time, and I'm going to say something that is not disparaging to others. Well, it is disparaging to others, but also myself in this. But what's the number one export of the United States of America?
Entertainment.
Not close.
Not close.
Not close.
Yeah.
And on the one hand, it is good because we live both at a level, lifestyle, life quality that allows us to have both extra time and extra money, which is novel in the history of the universe, man. And still to this day, a lot of places around the world, like the idea of having either of those is insane. But we got it. broadly, speaking to the whole nation here, we've got a lot of it, and we use a lot of it to entertain ourselves. And the reason that there's such a thing as binge anything is because you're not doing enough in your life. Okay, that's what I'm saying about that. And again, I am preaching to myself on this one. Speaking of, let's talk about the dang NFL.
Yeah, we
Colter.
could talk about this forever. I was having some profound thoughts yesterday about all of this stuff. We digress. Let's get it back on track.
You tell me. You say now. I'm not going to get into the. I said I was going to get into the Broncos and Seahawks because I think I got some interesting things here. We'll save it. We're going to do today's show tomorrow. Is what it comes down to.
Great.
But you said, hey, burning questions about the NFL season. I know you got more than one, but okay, give me one.
Okay, my number one question.
Okay.
Do you believe in the Oakland Raiders?
Well, the answer is that depends on what you mean.
Who are the two teams that have gotten the most offseason hype so far this offseason?
The Raiders and what?
The Browns. The Browns.
Yep. Here's the thing. Getting hype is not the same as expectation. The Browns have expectation. The Raiders have hype. They get Antonio Brown. You don't think so?
I'm just laughing because Sean Rainey's listening so intently to the show, and he just texted in, stop talking about the Raiders. Go back to what you were talking about. It's funny. Okay,
Rainey,
anyways.
You come over to the house. We'll sit down. We'll get the world hashed out together. The Raiders, do I think the Raiders are going to be better, improved? Yes. Does that mean they're going to be good? Not necessarily. But if you're saying, am I buying the Raiders' hype? I think the needle is pointing in and I say this tepidly, positive direction for Oakland. Obviously, to lose Amari Cooper, not great. You gain Antonio Brown. I think at least for this forthcoming year, you expect that you've gotten a very good wide receiver still. I mean, people talk, slipping or whatever, but I mean,
slip into the tune of like
1,400 yards.
Yeah, slip into the tune of like the third leading receiver in the league still.
Right. And so I think there's, questions with Derek Carr at quarterback at this point in his career. I thought that I love Derek
Is there,
Carr.
though, or is that just all centered on health? Because Derek, I mean,
it is health.
People forget that the Raiders won 12 games, and then Derek Carr broke his back.
Yep. No, it is, but here's the thing. Even if it's not about ability, if it's about if it's about being physically healthy, that's this. Production is all that matters, right? We don't care about the guy. We care about how many yards you throw for it. And if you can't do it, the reason is sort of, secondary. So anyway, what were the Raiders last year, Colter? What was their record?
I think the Raiders won 6 games a year ago.
So 6-10 a year ago for the Oakland. No, 4-12.
4-12.
Okay, because they were like 0-10 or whatever, right. Or 0-9, and then they finally won some down the stretch. They're going to be better than 4-12. They are moving eventually to Las Vegas, and they have gotten – they had these 3 first-round draft picks. They trade Khalil Mack, right, the whole deal. I think they'll be better than 4-12. I think that John Gruden is a good coach still. I don't know that he's the John Gruden of, that you're trading players for like they once did, even though they're paying him $10 million a year to be the coach of the team. I like John Gruden being in Oakland. I like him being with the Raiders, and I think over time it will work out. I certainly am not sitting here going, well, now they got it. Now they're the team to beat in the AFC West or something like that. No. So I don't know. Have I not answered your question? I don't know what the answer is.
Well, so we have never seen what is going to happen in Oakland from a coaching perspective ever before. We've never seen a coach that was one of the most revered, respected, and coveted young coaches in the NFL get fired, step away from the game for a full decade, and then pour himself into the game like John Gruden did. People that have ever read about the Fired Football Coaches Association of America, I mean, John Gruden has an office and an LLC that's basically the mask for him nerding out on football.
4 a.m., watching film in a windowless bunker in Florida. All year long.
And I know that there is a lot of jest made about John Gruden's, oh boy, I like this guy. But he has something to say about every single person in the NFL. That's why his commentary, in my opinion, was so good. Mm-hmm. That translates into game playing. John Gruden knows everything about everybody that's in the league, straight up. How does that translate on the field? That is the first question I have. Secondly, because I think it's a profound advantage. I truly do. I think that's a huge advantage. I think that he will be as ready to roll in terms of opponent preparation as any coach in the league. For example, I bet you John Gruden knows more about the AFC West than Vance Joseph. And Vance Joseph has been in the AFC West for multiple years. Secondly, though, the Oakland Raiders have a different mystique and a different aura about them than any other franchise in the NFL. A lot of that is a forgotten aura. A lot of that is, because you tied the LA Raiders with hip hop in the late 1980s, early 1990s, the NWA thing, the craze, all the gear. It was almost like a gang-like mentality, for better or for worse. But the Raiders, people forget, were an excellent franchise in the 70s and the 80s.
They won a Super Bowl.
I mean, they won multiple Super Bowls. Ken Stabler won multiple Super Bowls in the 70s, and then they won another one in the 80s, right?
Marcus Allen.
Yep. And, all the way up until the early 2000s, when they almost won another one with John Gruden as their head coach. But John Gruden has embraced the persona of the Oakland Raiders full force. When I'm looking down their depth chart, you look at every single one of these guys that's on their D-line. Maurice Hurst, who's drafted out of Michigan. He's got bad physical. I mean, this guy was straight up a top 5 pick, and he went in the 3rd round because he's got a bum heart, or allegedly a irregular heartbeat. How does that work out? Well, if it does, you got a diamond in the rough. Arden Key, top 10 edge rusher coming out of LSU. Multiple character issues. On down the line, like they signed Brandon Marshall in the offseason, the linebacker, not the receiver. Vontaze Burfict, one of the most polarizing players in the NFL. LaMarcus Joyner, the last chance story from Hard Knocks, who then started for the Rams last year. Up and down the line, they signed Richie Incognito last week. They got Antonio Brown. When you have that sort of last chance environment, it's only going to go one or two ways. You're going 13-3 or you're going 3-13. If there's a coach that can harness it, though, I think it's John Gruden.
I do too, and I think they got the right quarterback in terms of mentality for that. I mean, Derek Carr is the ultimate sort of like buy-in, team first, do whatever I got to do for the team. But he's also not just a want-to guy. He's good. He can play if he's not completely wrecked physically. And so, I think that is a part of it as well, particularly at the position. All right. Plenty more. We got, 100 days to the NFL?
Yeah, but we should just probably do an hour on the NFL every day until the season.
Great. We'll start with the Jacksonville Jaguars and move on through. We got to get out, though, because when we get back, we're going to take you to the Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Our lead up next.
Tutel Nuanez, live on the stream at 1029ESPN.com.
Welcome to today's lottery drawing. And today's winning numbers are not yours, not yours, and another number that's not yours. And the final number is not yours.
When it comes to having money, don't rely on luck. Brew your own coffee at home instead of buying that latte. Brown bag it to work instead of ordering it. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas on how to save. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift this summer or any time of year. If you are traveling, bring a gift that is distinctly Montana and give your loved ones some of the best spices anywhere around. From the Alpine Touch Pick 4 Spice Pack to the All-Purpose Twin Pack to the mouth-watering sunflower shoots to Alpine Touch gift cards. Alpine Touch makes the perfect Montana present. Available at retail locations around the state or online for a limited time. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up, pump it up.
Looking for a sweet summer deal? You'll find them at your local Town Pump. Right now, buy any size fountain drink for only $1. Grab a delicious corn dog while you're at it. 2 for $2.22. Town Pump Food Stores. Proud to be part of our community.
Town Pump, right down the road, pump it up, oh yeah.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of The Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at The Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
You're a big league fan. You expect big league service. At the Desperado, you get exactly that. With 35 flat screens, ice cold brews on tap, and Missoula's #1 wings, you're free to sit back and enjoy every pitch. This summer, make the Desperado your baseball home away from home. Cool off after work, relax on the weekends, soak in some great food and drinks, and watch your team make yet another great push for October. And hey, if yours can't do it, there's plenty of other teams and fun to go around at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
If it matters to Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Now they always say congratulations. Work so hard, forgot how to vacation. They ain't never had the dedication.
Tutel and Nuanez. All guests join the show on the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studio on ESPN Radio in Western Montana and across the state on SWX television. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Check out the podcast, available on the TuneIn Radio app, iTunes, Spotify, station website. Like it, love it, rate it, review it, listen to it. It's brought to us by Wyndham Hotels. All right, here we go. 6 minutes left in the show. Post Malone out of 10.
6.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's above average.
He's above a 6.
Me and you are both 6s.
No.
You're seriously the funniest person in the world.
Post Malone is in the 8 range.
No.
Oh, yeah.
8 is elite, bro.
At what he does?
He's not like legendary or really that memorable. You will not remember Post Malone in 15 years.
Yes, you will.
Kanye West is like an 8.
Post Malone is going to make face tattoos norm. The norm.
Nah, Post Malone's going to put out one more album and then be done. No longevity. Run out of material.
It's it's not about material.
Post Malone or Justin Bieber.
Please.
Tease for later in the week, we're going to have some analysis from our resident insider, Carolyn Buckta, about the upcoming Tom Cruise, Justin Bieber fight. This could be funny. This could be the funniest of all of the sports updates from a chick who doesn't know about sports.
Game 5, the NBA Finals, is coming up in just over an hour from now. We head south to Toronto for a game that I never thought I would see, which is one in which the Warriors are in a giant hole and have to try and dig their way out of. Kevin Durant reportedly has been cleared and is reportedly planning to play. As I said at the beginning of the show, certainly I expect that to be the case. The line has moved 2.5 points since the Durant announcement.
What's the line?
Golden State -1, a 1-point favorite for the Golden State Warriors. They were a 1.5-point dog before the Durant announcement. So he has moved the line from expected losers to expected winners just by his mere presence in the game. What do you expect Durant to do or not do in this game, and what do you expect to happen?
I want to know what's up with Steph Curry, because Steph Curry seemed either tired or hungover or something to me the last couple games, and I would love to know that status, because Steph at his best is going to be needed for them to win tonight. I don't know, man. I think that history weighs so heavily into projecting this game because, like you just said, I never expected to be picking a game.
That's a great point.
In which the Golden State Warriors were down 3-1 in Toronto.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, conventional wisdom says that Toronto is going to close this thing out because the Warriors are just not at 100%.
Toronto's 8-0 in their history as a franchise in home game 5s.
But how do you pick the Warriors to lose? I mean, how do you say that this team is not going to win the NBA championship?
Well, I don't know about the NBA championship. I mean, I am picking now the Toronto Raptors to win the championship.
Even if the Warriors win the game tonight.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm saying.
Who do you got tonight?
I got the Warriors.
And you think if the Warriors win tonight, Toronto can still win the championship? I think that if Toronto wins, Toronto has to win tonight to win the championship. I think if Toronto loses tonight, it's going to be hard pressed.
Toronto could absolutely win a game 7 at home.
They could, but will they?
Well,
I mean, you talk about the weight of the world. They're playing with house money right now. The pressure.
Say that.
The pressure is accentuated times 10 though if it's a game 7.
I don't know that
because then all of a sudden the Warriors are on a 2-game winning streak. Everybody's incrementally more healthy.
I understand what you're saying.
And the chess match has been played all the way out, and so then all the moves are out on the table. And in a game 7, Steve Kerr's just going to win that.
In terms of the ability, the health, and that what you just said, I agree. In terms of the pressure, I don't think so. Like the pressure is just as high today as it would be in a game 7 for the Toronto Raptors.
The best part about the Raptors,
I don't think it matters.
The best part about the Raptors is that their superstar is a cyborg and he feels no pressure.
Feels nothing.
What a fascinating character he is.
It's incredible.
How about when Draymond Green ran into him the other day and Kawhi took a half step back and it wasn't even a Draymond flop. He got leveled. Kawhi Leonard is superhuman strong.
Kawhi Leonard is a very strong man. It is true. He's a very talented man. That is true. And here's the thing. Whatever the pressure is, I said the pressure is the same in 5 and 7. I don't think that the Raptors feel pressure. I think they follow Kawhi Leonard, and I think that they just do what they do. This is part of my trying to give them credit because they go out there and they just play with emphatic effort and will and desire, and they're unflappable, and they're not going to change. I don't think Toronto's going to go out and play a bad game now. You know what I mean? I mean, they could, but I don't think they're going to play a bad game and go all of a sudden, anything in reaction to what Golden State does. I think they're going to play a very good game. I think Golden State has been waiting for a chance to blow them out, and I don't think that time is coming. And I think that Golden State is silly to look for that. They're a heavyweight fighter that is looking for their chance to knock out a perfectly healthy opponent. They need to box this team and be better than this team in the skill areas, and they are.
But that's
with Kevin Durant.
That's a great analogy, though, because that is what Golden State does. And the one time they did knock Toronto back on their heels, then they went on this unbelievable run.
20-0.
But that's to the credit to the Raptors. That's the number one credit I would give them is they have not let that happen at all in this series with the exception of that one run.
Who you got?
Warriors.
Boys and girls, enjoy Game 5. We send you out to it now. ESPN Radio.
Treat Dad right Father's Day with the Montana Club's awesome all-you-can-eat buffet featuring all of the slow-roasted prime rib and glazed ham Dad can put away, plus bacon, sausage, eggs, sweet treats, fresh fruit, and more. Or bring them in for dear old Dad dinner specials like osso buco and steak sonata.